Oftentimes, when we read, we are going to come across words that we do not know. Usually, when this happens, first thing that we'll do is consult the dictionary or maybe even pull up an app on our phone, whether it be the dictionary app or possibly even look it up on Google. In this lesson, we are going to learn about context clues and how we can use those to figure out the meanings of those unknown words based on clues that we find within the passage. To understand context clues, we need to first look at the definition of what is a context clue. Simply, these are words and sentences around a word that provides clues to its meaning. As we read, usually there will be three types of context clues within a passage. First, it could be clues within nearby sentences, or we could just look at examples that are given in the passage. And finally, we can consult a definition that has been set off by commas or some other form of punctuation. Clues within nearby sentences will often help us to figure out what that unknown word means. Let's take a look at the given example. President Martinez rarely digressed in her State of the Union speech. She had 5 important points to make, and she did not stray from those subjects. She did not discuss irrelevant details. Well, as we see, we have the highlighted word digressed. Now, if you don't know what this word means, we can look at some of the clues within this passage to help us figure out the meaning behind that word. So, what does digress mean? There are a couple of clues in the passage that will help us determine what it means. If you notice, the passage states that she did not stray, and also states that she did not discuss irrelevant details. So we can take these clues to determine that digress actually means to stray from the main subject. Oftentimes, a passage will give us examples that we can use to help us determine the meaning of an unknown word or phrase. Any ecological crisis, such as global warming or mass extinctions of plants and animals, can have serious long-term consequences. So, in this example, we are going to look at examples within the passage to help us determine the meaning of ecological crisis. Well, the passage specifically states 2 examples of an ecological crisis, such as global warming or mass extinctions of plants and animals. Given this information, we can determine that an ecological crisis is a serious problem that affects plants, animals, and their environment. Sometimes the author will give us the definition within the passage itself, and usually they will do this by using commas or maybe some other form of punctuation. In this sentence, dendrologists, or people who study trees, can tell a lot about weather extremes or other stresses the trees live through. Well, in this example, we see that the author has given us the definition of a dendrologist. So what is it? Well, it's people who study trees. Therefore, we know that a dendrologist is someone who studies trees. Now that we've looked at 3 common examples of context clues that we can use within a passage, let's put this knowledge to practice. We had a wonderful day at the zoo. After looking at the monkeys, we decided to find the birds. We saw a big sign that said aviary, so we headed in that direction. When we got to the aviary, I was amazed. The building was huge and there were hundreds of different birds inside. The birds were every color of the rainbow. Well, in this passage, we come across an unknown word, aviary. what clues do we see in the passage that can help us determine what an aviary is? Well, if you look after the sentence that states they saw a big sign that said aviary, we're told that they get to the aviary, and then the passage states that the building was huge and there were hundreds of different birds inside. So we can take that information and infer that this building itself was the aviary. Therefore, we can define an aviary as a place where birds are kept. Let's look at another example. Raccoons thrive because they are adaptable. They are able to change their behavior to suit their situation. They will eat almost anything. With their nimble front paws and a great deal of curiosity, raccoons can find whatever food is available, according to the season. Raccoons have a keen sense of touch. They are always poking their fingers into crevices, searching for small animals such as mice and insects to eat. They can even open garbage cans and live well on the contents. Near farms, they help themselves to fruit, vegetables, and grain. In this example, we want to know what the word adaptable means. Well, we have a couple of different clues within the passage that can help us understand what this word means. Right after the word adaptable, it says they are able to change their behavior to suit their situation. So that's one clue. We also see some examples where it states that they're poking their fingers into crevices, searching for small animals. It says that they're capable of opening garbage cans. And then finally, it says that they help themselves to fruit, vegetables, and grain. So here we see 3 different examples of how raccoons are able to adapt. Based on this information, what does adaptable mean? Well, adaptable means that something is able to change in response to different situations. So we see in this passage that raccoons are able to change their behavior in response to where they're located. So we see the example of the farms. We see that they're able to open garbage cans. Raccoons are going to do what they need to do to get food and survive. In closing, we now know that we can use context clues to help us determine the meaning of unknown words by investigating other words and phrases in the passage. So we don't necessarily need to consult a dictionary or pull out that trusty app or even consult the almighty guru known as Google. We can just simply examine clues within nearby sentences. Look for examples that might be provided in the passage, or even see where the author has defined those words by setting them off with a form of punctuation such as a comma. Now, I'm not saying that you should never grab a dictionary, but you may not have access to one at the time you are reading something. So, you can use this particular skill to help you determine the meaning of unknown words just by putting forth a little investigative work into the passage itself.